Hi, what's up? My name is Adam, and you are on Cyber Raccoon channel. Today I keep talking about new and updating online games. Please watch the video to the end, subscribe our channel, and you will always be aware of what to play today. Population Zero is an MMORPG from Russian developers Aniplex Games that tells the story of a failed attempt to colonize another planet. Humanity has long dreamed of going to conquer the universe, to populate other planets, to found their cities and a new society on them. And so the spaceship with the colonists rushed to the planet Kepler 438b in the constellation Lyra, but the ship was wrecked. Those who survived after him will have to find themselves in an unfamiliar hostile environment, having practically nothing with them. But this will not prevent the brave space travelers from erecting the first shelters from the wreckage of their starship, shooting a couple of local animals and thereby saving themselves from hunger, finding deposits of valuable resources, and starting to build a new world around themselves. Battlefield 5 is the long-awaited sequel to the multiplayer shooter series, which has received a flurry of criticism from the players at the start. The action of the game this time takes place during the Second World War, but the vision of the developers, who implemented an alternative view of historical reality, sacrificing authenticity, was not to everyone's taste. Naturally, the creators of the game had to make concessions to the players. As for the gameplay, the single-player campaign is divided into several parts and offers to see the events of the most destructive war of the last century through the eyes of people of different nationalities, located on different sides of the barricades. There are plenty of multiplayer modes in Battlefield V. Here you can find cooperative battles against AI, competitive modes such as assaults and team deathmatches, large-scale combat operations, and the now fashionable Battle Royale mode. Forza Horizon 4. In June 2018, the British studio Playground Games, under the wing of Microsoft itself, released one of the most spectacular online racing games of our time. Here you will find races on detailed cars in a huge open world in one of several modes. Here you can find classic ring races, drift, trial, and off-road races, and even ski jumping and much, much more. There are over 400 different car models in the game, so you will definitely find something to your liking, especially since almost all appearance details lend themselves to deep customization. The gameplay is diversified by the dynamic weather system, which noticeably affects the behavior of your car on the track. The only problem with the game is that the combination of an open world, great graphics, and detailed simulation of the physics of the car's movement leads to simply brutal appetites for hardware. So don't even try to launch a new Forza without 16 gigabytes of RAM and a top-end video card. Final Fantasy XIV. The fully online incarnation of Final Fantasy has been around for quite some time, but like all great MMOs, it continues to evolve. The game recently received an update with a new MOBA-style PvP mode, Rival Wings, and one of the big additions is Stormblood. It's a paid update, but Square Enix isn't greedy with content being added to the already big game. Stormblood adds a new quest to Alumhigo, new classes including the Red Mage, and the ability to swim and dive. Level cap increased from 60 to 70, plus a new primal, additional dungeons, gear, raids, and a fourth residential area. Blade and Soul is an MMORPG for fans of martial arts and movies like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Each MMO boasts something special about the combat system. For Blade and Soul, it's strikingly beautiful battle scenes, complex animations, and devastating combo attacks. The game became so popular in Asia that 10,000 people signed a petition to convince the publisher to release it in Europe and North America. Explore a fantasy world inspired by Chinese mythology, choose from 11 different classes, and uncover a mystery of revenge so diabolical that it would embarrass Hamlet himself. Guild Wars 2. At the time of its release in 2012, Guild Wars 2 was perhaps the strongest MMO since World of Warcraft, and after all this time, it doesn't even think about going to retirement. For example, in Path of Fire, players must defeat Balthazar, the rebel god of war, before he destroys TERA, while the Guild Wars 2 Living World series introduces players to the jungle in an open world. Everything is done very well and confirms ArenaNet's talent for creating beautiful stories. The main feature of Guild Wars 2 is a large, evolving, beautiful world. Just take a look at the concept art. But the game mechanics are also great. Dynamic events bring players, friends, and strangers together for crazy races across the vastness of the world, and combat looks fluid and dramatic despite the traditional shortcuts and cooldowns at its core. The game itself is free, but you need to buy add-ons. The best part is that it has very few microtransactions. Crossout. Imagine Mad Max with even more car fighting, and you get Crossout, a post-apocalyptic MMO where the key to success is a good job in the garage. Check out a huge range of body parts, weapons, electrical devices, and external gadgets and build your death machine. Join one of the amazing and beautiful factions, each with its own style and choice of parts. Enjoy a convenient trading system with other players. The economy of the game is such that abundance does not shine for you. In addition, there are restrictions on the use of various equipment on your car, and its thoughtful selection is no less important than competent maneuver and good accuracy. If you want to travel to a nightmarish future full of abandoned cities and desolate wastelands, get behind the wheel. Revelation Online is one of the many morps that have come to us from the East, but it stands out from the competition with its stylish, free-to-play combat system, deep character creation and development systems, and a gorgeous open world. Plus, it has enough content for players of all MMO preferences, whether you need a serious lane filled with quests and NPCs, or just want to hunt down your virtual cousins in PvP duels and battles. There is also a particularly nice feature in the game. You can reset your character at any time. It's free. If you have killed 60 hours on an MMORPG at least once in your life to realize that you had to create a shooter, not a hand-to-hand fighter, you know how valuable this can be for your free time. If you're a fan of the MOBA genre, there's good news for you. The Mythical Combat update adds a separate game mode inspired by the titans of the genre like League of Legends and Dota 2. These days, every new MMORPG has to have some kind of unique twist that can attract players, and for Icarus these are mounts. Of course, many MMOs have them, but as you might have guessed from the name, here they play a critical role in the development of characters and quests, because in this MMO there are hundreds of potential pets that can be saddled and led into battle. Wherever you go in Riders of Icarus, you'll come across a variety of new and powerful creatures to catch and use to your advantage, from cute forest kangaroo-like animals to ancient fire-breathing dragons. Naturally, before using their power, they need to be tamed, and in game mechanics this is as important as dialogue or combat. And since it's an MMO, you'll want to show off your pet to your friends, almost like Pokemon, only in a fantasy and much harsher and bloody world. Like many new MMOs, Icarus is constantly updated with new features and fresh content. For example, the Rift of the Damned add-on introduces flying islands and several new mountable dragons. New Legend. Few games have been able to instill in their players such a sense of undying power as Blizzard's Diablo series. Meet New Legend, a third-person action RPG in which it is really cool to hack through hordes of demons with a two-handed sword. This new MMORPG boasts versatile character creation, tons of endless dungeons, and fun PvP. Since the game is predominantly focused on dynamic and brutal battles, New Legend requires much less help from peasants to harvest crops and hunt badgers than other MMOs. Plus, New Legend is the sequel to the hugely popular Mu Online, so brace yourself for valuable trophies and a level cap you are unlikely to ever reach. EVE Online. Space piracy and corporate evil have become available to everyone since November 2016. EVE Online has switched from a paid subscription to a simplified, but expandable, free F2P model. With the Ascension update, you can live out your space trucker fantasies without having to pay a subscription. Only you can decide whether to wage a grandiose galactic war against your enemies or cash in on bloodshed. The galaxy is constantly being updated. For example, an entire vast region was added in the Into the Abyss expansion. EVE Online's free play does not allow only the highest levels of upgrades and abilities, so you can secure your career in your chosen spacecraft. Fortunately, CCP Games has redesigned the introduction to EVE Online to make it easier to tackle this notoriously challenging space game. Thanks to constant updates from Bethesda, The Elder Scrolls Online is one of the largest, greatest, and deepest MMOs to date. If you're familiar with the Elder Scrolls series, the game is a fresh take on the same fantasy RPG gameplay that Skyrim and Oblivion owe their popularity to. Of course, there is a network element here that will allow you to finally fight with your friends and go to the dungeon with not only a dumb NPC, but at its core, this is the classic Elder Scrolls. The game continues to evolve with frequent additions adding new territories, such as the familiar Morrowind and the beautiful Somerset, and with updates such as Dragon Bones, new dungeons and PvP arenas appear. This MMO now contains territories that were only briefly mentioned in the main games of the series. For example, the homeland of the Argonians, Murkmire. So if you want to stay tuned until Elder Scrolls 6 is out, this is the game for you. Although Fallout 76 has become an event in the gaming industry, which is better not to think about, Bethesda still continues to work on its brainchild. True, in a strange way. First, the company releases a paid subscription, it is not clear why, and then it turns out that the game is extremely vulnerable to various cheats. What's next? The release of a major Wastelanders update that adds NPCs, a full storyline, and tons of content. With the release of this DLC, the game will visit the Steam platform. While the future of Fallout 76 is uncertain, we don't forget the stories of the Elder Scrolls Online and No Man's Sky, whose developers managed to fix the situation. Moreover, as of April 2021, Fallout 76 has tens of thousands of positive reviews on Steam. TERA. Not everyone is thrilled with traditional MMO combat, which is why TERA is worth paying attention to. Jumping, air-slicing strikes, and beautiful Devil May Cry-style lunges are a far cry from the conventional push-and-wait recovery systems of many other MMOs. Add to that the vibrant visuals, TERA is definitely worth seeing. The game has been around for quite some time, but its prospects are no less bright than when it was released in 2011. Regular events such as Return to the Forsaken Island keep the world of Arborea alive and active. TERA is one of the best free morphs out there, so there are no arguments against it. ArcheAge is an ambitious MMO with a giant open world where you can fulfill your dream of becoming a fantasy pirate. As with many MMOs, the world is constantly evolving thanks to frequent updates. Now in ArcheAge you can raise your own mountable dragon and fight in the skies. Moreover, thanks to development servers, you can evaluate the game as it was at the time of launch and see how new features appeared one after another. Rift. Back in 2011, the Rift was a breath of fresh air in a stagnant genre and has only gotten better ever since. For beginners, it also became cheaper. Gradually, the game itself and all the add-ons became free. At the same time, regular updates keep the game in shape. In the new Raid of the Crucius Claw update, huge bosses appear, and one of the most sophisticated class systems continues to be replenished with mage, archers, and other classes. Everything that provided Rift with rave reviews right after its release is still relevant today. This game is great at gathering large groups of players and creating impressive hazards for them. She easily manages quests and raids, successfully complementing them with random events. A classic that remains modern, fantasy RPGs of the decade. MMORPG Swords of Legends Online tells us about Chinese legends that you may already know about from movies, visual novels, and other games. Unlike other representatives of the genre, this project has a complex combat system, and the player's refuge, which he can improve, is a whole temple complex with an abundance of rooms and a picturesque garden, and all this can be changed to your liking. The rest of the genre's mechanics are inherited. We explore an open fantasy world, fight with mobs and sort things out with other users in PvP modes. ELYON, formerly known as Ascent Infinite Realm, is an up-and-coming steampunk MMORPG from the creators of TERA. Its main feature is promised to be air battles on personal ships. The chances of winning such battles will depend not only on the coolness of the character and the ingenuity of the player, but also on the modifications of the ship. In addition to battles on their own ships, players will also be able to take part in large-scale battles as a member of the crew of a giant factional ship. On the ground, players will also have something to do. The developers promise a lot of fun PvP content, various peaceful activities, including arranging their own homes and even creating quests on their own. The game has already been released in the developer's homeland, but it is in no hurry to go to Russia. Moonlight Blade is a Chinese MMORPG that is already available in its homeland, but has not yet reached global release. For those who love Asian cinema, this game promises to be a real treat. The stylistics of Chinese fantasy films are done perfectly here. Running on vertical surfaces and flying over unrealistically long distances are included. As for combat, it combines the classic target and non-target systems. The classes represent different schools of martial arts, the number of which is gradually increasing. All this is spiced up with a beautiful bright picture and high-quality animation. Ashes of Creation Apocalypse. Apocalypse is an offshoot of the MMORPG Ashes of Creation that eventually became a standalone game. At the development stage, the creators of the game decided to temporarily launch the Battle Royale mode, believing that in this way they would be able to objectively evaluate the work of various game mechanics. Naturally, the most fashionable mode in recent years could not fail to attract the attention of players, so the decision to create a separate project based on the main one was expected. Ashes of Creation Apocalypse offers players 3 modes. The first is a classic battle royale with 100 fighters. The second is designed for 2 teams, up to 200 people in total. One team attacks the castle, the other defends. In the third mode, the enemies attack the team of players in waves. Each new wave is tougher than the previous one. Apocalypse will not replace the main project, but will be closely associated with it. So, the game currency will be shared, earning in one game. You can spend it in another. Unlike Ashes of Creation, which will be available by subscription, Apocalypse is distributed on a free-to-play model. Only cosmetics are planned to be sold. New World is a fantasy sandbox MMO from Amazon Game Studios. The developers have chosen for their project a very unusual setting for the genre, North America during the colonization. Players are promised a lively, realistic, and very hostile world filled with aggressive creatures, including fantasy ones. Choice of who to be, how to develop and build colonies, the developers will leave to the players. Also in New World, they promise to implement a system of changing the time of year and day on which many elements of the gameplay will depend. Players will be able to have fun in PvP battles, attacking other people's forts and looting. They plan to distribute the game according to a subscription model and promise that there will be no donation affecting the balance. Lineage Eternal, Twilight Resistance. An upcoming MMORPG set in the Lineage universe, rumored to be Lineage 3. Little is known about her. This is an isometric action RPG with activities appropriate for the genre, traveling the game world, sieges, an abundance of races, intense multiplayer battles. Other innovations are noticeable. This is an excellent graphic component and realistic physics of the interaction of heroes with the environment. For example, you can bring down a stone column on enemies. If your favorite game is not included in this list, write it in the comments. Thanks for watching. Subscribe our channel, press like, turn on notifications, and you will always be aware of what to play today.